Okay, folks, good morning. Happy Sunday? Yeah. I don't care what day of the week is, just I don't want to go into work. Good morning. My first taste of some caffeine. So we had a really productive last couple days. It's going to be hard to top that. But we're going to continue and try to keep moving forward and knocking things out. So what I have on my desk here is a couple things I'm going to work on next. Both of these are 176 scale. This is an MMS model I've had. Hey Nordic, this is an MMS model kit, miniature, whatever you want to call it, that I've had almost 30 years. Seems like I've had it a long time. And this was back in the day when ears still bugging me. Oh man, that sucks. I've had this thing for like a long time, and I never quite put it together for a couple of reasons. The instructions were piss poor, and then lots of fiddly parts that super glue is just a pain in the ass. And at that time, I didn't have epoxy. I didn't have any confidence in epoxy. So I just kind of left it. In the meantime, I moved at least twice, maybe only once, but I misplaced the instructions. Then I found somebody had instructions on them online, and I'm missing some of the pieces. So I actually had to make. Luckily, the pieces that I missed are not important, and in the process, I show you guys every single thing that happens. So there's stuff down there. Let's see if you can make it. It's made out of like the plastic shims, basically the undercarriage of where the tank sits wasn't available, but it's not really visible unless I show you what's going on there. So pretty insignificant. It took some fitting in there and a whole lot of patience. This probably took more patience to put together than probably anything I've put together, and I had a fonder memory of these models than I do now. I just don't like them being made out of metal. It is just very difficult. I mean, every single thing is a problem. Seems like even the headlights and stuff, they don't fit. You got to drill them. They still, it's just a pain in the butt. This thing is extremely delicate. I had to make some executive decisions for the longevity of how this thing is going to possibly last. I actually set the rail that the recuperator runs on top of this to give it some support, because otherwise it's not very supportive at all. I don't even want to mess with it. And it's going to be challenging to paint, but only because it's going to be challenging to get the black into those spots here. So I'm going to attempt to brush paint the Vallejo and get it in anywhere that anyone could possibly see. And then once we're past that point, everything should be okay. Now, one of the reasons I got the check there. Oh, let me take a look. Man, you guys are at it. You had a lot more caffeine than I have. Marders. This is my least favorite marder, look wise, not effectiveness wise, look wise, because if you look at it from here, it looks like you just threw it together. It's like the soapbox derby of tank destroyers. Okay, if you look at it from the top, it just looks shitty. I mean, it'll be fine once it's painted, but it's completely hollow, so there's no details. I might put some card. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to do it as is. It's going to end up. Actually, I probably do need to add some card to it, or you're going to see all the way down to the floorboard, to the. Well, let me give you a glimpse of what it could possibly look like. You know, you're gonna see all the way to the dirt when it goes on there. This thing's way too much trouble. But anyways, it's got a pretty decent gun, especially for 40. I think they came out like around June 42 or something like that. Some of them are even in Gazala. But the seats don't have any detail. Anyhow, I could go on and on. But like I said, I have it. We're going to use it. You know. One thing that I noticed, some versions of them have, some pictures actually have like some tubing that comes up and then across it goes back down. I'm like, oh, I got some brass wire that I accidentally bought. You trying to use for spears or something like that? I'll use that. Can't find it. So if I find it at a later date, I may put it on there. If not, there's plenty of them that do not have that tubing on there. But it's going to be for case blau, fall blau, whatever the hell it's called. So the driver to Stalingrad and so forth. So we may put camouflage on it, we may not, but it's going to be a base dark gray. Now, the reason I got the Czech 38 pack from Plastic Soldier Company and not one from somebody else is they came with crew members for all the Marders you can make. Now, the Marders you can make on there are the Marder III, which I have one from MMS, again with no crew, and a Marder, I guess I would call this a 38H, I don't know. This is probably the best looking one of the three as far as attractiveness, so in my view. But these are actually 1/72nd, and if you think 1/72nd and 1/76 don't make a huge difference, well, they don't sometimes, and sometimes they do, and this is a case of they do, because I was looking to see if I could use some extra parts, and here's the crew members, which might be a little on the large size, but we're going to try and use them, and we're going to try to put them together and see we can fit on what. Lots of extra screws with this stuff. Look at the cannon. This is a beautiful cannon, by the way. So this is the same cannon as this monster. And it looks significantly bigger. Or is it this one? It might actually be this one. Yeah, it might actually be that one. I don't know. These are really nice, though. I totally can see getting another set of this and use it for the Marders and make 3 Marders out of it. So, anyhow, I mean, they've got like tarping stuff and really nice looking. A one-piece barrel that also isn't drilled out. This thing, the MMS wasn't drilled out at all. I was surprised. I had to drill it out carefully because this metal is a little on the soft side. So, okay, so enough of show and tell. Let's put this back and all these extra screws that I still have left over from. I'm glad this is the one that came in a box. You haven't had caffeine in 2 years. Well, yeah, you mentioned that. Well, I don't want to give it up. Proof that my soul belongs to caffeine. Okay, there weren't any instructions for the crew. So, let's see who's part of this crew and what we can use. This guy here, I even considered, talk about being anal retentive, I even considered taking this guy off the stand, getting one of those, figuring out where he's going to fit in the whole scheme of things. He's kind of like standing out like, okay, the the shield will protect me up to here, so let me stand all the way up, you know. But they're firing at long range, so that's this guy's story. But some of those rare earth magnets, drilling out his foot, putting one in there that's really small, and then finding the spot here, and then drilling it so that way when they take casualties, you can take the guy out of there. But I don't know if I'm going to go through all that. But that's one guy there. Then we have, this guy's part of the Panzer crew, because I recognize him. These guys are half figures. Let's take a look at this guy's got a cannon too. All right, let's do a couple things. Let's set this off to the side because I need to paint this thing black, and that's going to take a little bit of time. This is my whole leapfrog process, and I picked this area up pretty well, so we should have a minimum of chaos. But I much prefer plastic models because it's just so easy to convert things, you know. Mr. Dirk, welcome. So, let's get the Vallejo black primer and paint this ugly duckling. Yeah, I'm probably going to block off the back. And that's the nice thing about having all these. Are we dropping shit already? That's the nice thing about having all these extra pieces of the shim. I was able to put it to good use, building up the parts of this. Now, let's not get one that's very wide. As a matter of fact, let's waste a narrow one. This doesn't really need to be. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Well, it doesn't need to be longer than about that. It's long enough. Let's take about that much off. Oh! Video's backwards. There we go. Need a sticky note. The video's fucking backwards. Just put that on there. Didn't used to be. That's what happens with these free programs. They just change shit and they don't even tell you. Oh, a little smaller. I have so much of this stuff that this is the stuff to use. I actually thought about getting plastic heart at the store, but man, the one hobby store in town-ish that we have pissed me off. I was gonna buy some more of the Tamiya glue, refill this one, put something else in a container, and then use this empty container for the one I have from California, and which smells like oranges, you know, because I want that applicator. And they didn't have any Tamiya glue. So, I thought I did. Oh, here it is. I really need to get a container that just my tools go in and nothing else. So something that they used to have in stores, they don't have it in the store anymore. And of course there's going to be a little bit gap there, but I think this will work fine. Okay, we will epoxy that down when we go to do the epoxy for the 2 tanks on stands. And I was picking up and I found a stash I didn't know I had. I had a stash of, these are going to be fun because they're nice and dry now, of 4 of these stands. And I'm like, what the hell are these for? What did I make them for? T34s. So I got 4 T34 stands. So while this is drying, we will pull out the T34s and build 4 more, because here's the 4 stands that they go on them. Anyways, I'd like to just work on one thing, but the drying time on it forces me to have to jump around some. So we will put that there. You've noticed hobby stores around here only sell the glues from Games Workshop. Hobby Lobby sells Mr. Cement, which is just as good as Tamiya, but cheaper. Hobby Lobby only had, where I bought my Tamiya did not have it. They didn't have anything. You know, things just don't restock anymore like they used to. So, bad enough the place only isn't open on Sundays. You know, which is fine, but I know why they do it. But if I had a store, I'd be closed on Monday and Tuesday. Oh, like it'd be like a Mitch schedule. All right, look at this buildup we have. Look at this extra buildup from this rubbery shit we have. All right, let's see if we can find us a spot that. The other thing that's not good anymore is a spray paint. I used to spray with Malo Master Black, and it used to, it's expensive, and then they just don't make it anymore. And now I'm having to use Krylon, which is extra stinky. It has a bad smell, and the wife really doesn't like it. So I open up the garage, and it's still stinky. So we decided not to, this one should work. We decided not to use that, try to do this without spray paint. We'll see. I need to see how this inside is going to be. I got to be really delicate, because some of these parts are not together in the best way. Oh, there was a hole and I went out of it. I got some on my finger. And there was just no way I was going to put this together after it was painted black. I just needed to see if I was even going to be able to make this workable. Because like I said, I've been fighting with this thing for a long time. Well, not consistently, but you know, I would have put this thing together 2 decades ago if it wasn't such a bear. And the MMS instructions are terrible. I kind of walked away from the build of this kind of with not the best impression of them. I have a couple of their Panzer IIs and a Befles Panzerwagen, an artillery command tank, and the 2 Panzer IIIs. I think that's what I have. I have the 2 Panzer. Well, one of them I bought on my own. A Panzer IIIF which I ended up getting a 37 millimeter gun with it. I was not happy about that 25 years ago, but it's painted now, so. And I guess that's the MMS ones that I have. I always held them in high regard because I like the metal vehicles, but the fact that the pieces are heavy means that you got to use some heavy duty glue. And it's one of those things, a plastic model, sometimes if something's plastic and falls on the ground, it doesn't get hurt because it doesn't weigh enough to crush itself. It's kind of the same thing applies to the plastic models. These things are so heavy that they could damage what they fall on and themselves. So ears bugging you, can't keep the headphones on. Oh man, I know you use headphones. Well, I hope you feel better. So this is going to end up taking 2 coats, but that's okay. I don't want to spray in the dark, and it's dark out there, because I'll end up overspraying. Hey, we'll get to see what the hell this is like on bare metal without... if it starts coming off, we can just give it a fine spray of the spray paint in the plate, and it's going to catch any place that any human is going to touch. Yeah, this is definitely a candidate for this particular material when you're trying to get in all the nooks and crannies of this pack. But I suspect that a lot of people that bought this model from MMS walked away from it. It is, or built it totally wrong, or I don't know. It is just, it's brutal. Even with pictures and the internet, and it's not very clear. But this is actually a perfect kind of vehicle for skirmish games. It has no machine gun. So, it's not... You have something in a skirmish game and you have, that has even something like 40 or 50 millimeters of armor. And the infantry don't have an anti-tank weapon. It's pretty much impervious to damage by the infantry. Even with an anti-tank rifle, 40 millimeters of armor or something like that is enough to pretty much not be a problem. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to do the crew compartment, and then I'm going to have to go and probably spray it outside to get all the main parts, but... And then it's open topped, so it can be, grenades can do stuff to it. And I mean a perfect vehicle for a skirmish game, meaning it's not overly powerful. Where it's like it shows up and that's it. The infantry are all hosed kind of thing. But I lost the instructions and I found somebody who had a listing. I think it was some guy in Russia several years ago that listed this and had all the pictures, including the pictures of the instructions. So I'm like, I saved that, and then I had some instructions. I had some instructions. Because still, some of it is just, you have to kind of invent. Now, am I able to? I believe I can. Maybe that's the real reason they gave you these little holes, so you go in and paint the inside of the gun. This is definitely going to be like, do not move this unless you move it by the stand. We have it glued together, but there's no adjoining parts. There's no male and female type couplings or something holding the pieces together. They're glued in place. And I was surprised this barrel wasn't drilled out at all. And I've always called this vehicle the Marder IID because that's what it was based on. It was based on the running gear of a Panzer IID, which I think they used them in what, Poland? Maybe only Poland. I don't remember exactly. I read it and I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. That's why the running gear doesn't look familiar. It looks familiar, yet not. I may be getting it confused with the Panzer III. There's a Panzer III that had I don't remember which one it was, that they used only in Poland. It had the big, instead of having the small wheels on the bottom and the return rollers at the top, like it's pretty much standard. It had all big wheels like this. And I think that was the one that they used only in Poland. But I could be wrong. Those are not those are early war variants, and I've never gamed Poland or I've never miniature gamed Poland or France. And so that's not really in my vocabulary. I could look it up if I was going to do that period, but they didn't use them in Barbarossa. And I have no interest in doing any gaming that's before, say, early when the Africa Corps land in North Africa, or the beginnings of the Fifth Light Division lands in North Africa. Prior to that, I don't care to war game Poland or France or Norway or Low Countries, Yugoslavia. Just doesn't interest me. And it's mainly It's mainly the composition that the forces had. German squads during that time period didn't have a couple of submachine gunners. It was usually, both leaders sometimes just had riflemen, and that's like World War One. I like a mixture of forces, so mixture of weapons within the squad. France wouldn't be too bad, but Poland, I'm not putting white crosses on my vehicles and calling them German. It just seems wrong. Doesn't look right. Yeah, but the Model Master spray stuff, even though it had a spray, the smell wasn't unpleasant. Hey, there's some toxic smells that are more unpleasant than others. And that one was not one that was unpleasant, to me, anyways. But the Krylon smells bad. The matte finish that I use, it smells bad. Okay, did we get black in all the places that are difficult to reach? I think we did. I may fire up the airbrush today and try using it with black and see if it doesn't anger me. I have two problems with the airbrush. The first one is that it's suction. So if the suction stops working, which is what it is, you get it going and then all of a sudden it stops, even though you've thinned it. All right, well, we'll leave you on the ground then. And the other thing is double action. I don't need a double action airbrush. That's just another thing that can gum up. I'm not going to do camouflage schemes with airbrush. I just want something to spray something black. Just primer. That's it. And, maybe seal it. We'll see. Okay. We'll let that dry a little bit for now. This other one dry. The base for the other Panzer III. Yeah, that's where we got to go next because this thing takes a long time to dry there. Let's get the old chocolate brown out here. Man, I wish I would have done this filming. Well, I didn't have the technology for it 10 years ago. I wouldn't have to be on with the glasses, off with the glasses, on with the glasses, off with the glasses, on with the glasses, off with the glasses. Because I've always painted in 2020, so I use contacts, so I just put my contacts on and paint. It was only until like 6 years ago. But we didn't have internet that could handle it. 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we got 4 bases for T34s. Probably gonna make, I got a bunch of T3485s also, but we're not gonna go there. That opens up a whole other can of worms at this point. I'll let that dry. Probably needs some new water. Okay. Tank, self-propelled gun crew. Let's see what we're dealing with here. Let's see what figures they come with. Because ideally I'd like to get 4 at least. That way we have some for the other Marder as well. Let's see what this thing comes with. We got a seated dude. That looks like he belongs like in a staff car, honestly. I don't like these German uniforms. German uniforms are really cool. German tank crew and self-propelled gun crew uniforms, not that big of a fan. Why? The tie. If they've got the tie on there, nobody's going into battle wearing a freaking tie, okay? That just seems preposterous. Okay, well this figure is whole. So let's take him out. Okay, he's good. This guy's sitting down in some kind of a chair. Oh, he might be to replace. I don't think these instructions have any figures on them. They don't even show them, so. I would be surprised if the intrinsic chairs have a figure on them. I'm not going to make the mistake that I did several years ago and threw all the extra sprues away. So if I need antennas and stuff like that, I'm all set. This has This has the chairs right here, devoid of anybody on them. Maybe if you want a guy on it, you can get that. Well, these guys are very wooden. I wouldn't want to use them anyways. They're extremely wooden. Now, this guy's on a chair, this guy's on a chair, so I'm not really interested in that. Well, this one doesn't have any chairs. Let's take one of these. Let's take this guy out and see if we can't fit him somewhere on the Marder III. So worry about cleaning them out later. That may end up working. We'll have to maybe figure out how he's going to be. All right, so we've got this guy and this guy. This guy is a full tank crew guy, so I'm not putting him in there. Well, okay, this is obviously the guy that's multi-parts that he gets to put together. He's like a gunner, loader, whatever guy. Let's get him out. And these guys wouldn't have Black Panzer uniforms. They would have the field gray. Okay, this is the legitimate half figure. All right. Let's make sure we got the sharpest one of these I can handle. I wanted to buy some X-Acto knives at the store, but man, they were blades. Man, they were expensive. Just gonna have to do it one time. I don't want to mail order them and get knockoffs that don't work. Somebody was telling me they didn't like this Plastic Soldier Company figures. I'm not going to buy their infantry. I got tons of infantry, but the ones that come with like the self-propelled guns and tank crews and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, they're a lot better than the ones we grew up with. The Eschi figures that are just like, they're wooden and they're small and they don't make you want to paint them. The only one I didn't like was the Russian tank commander on the T-70. He had his mouth open to a level that was pretty extreme. That's the problem with these small things. It isn't that they're small. It's that there's nowhere to hold on to them while you're, deflashing them. Okay, and then the neck. I hope there's enough of a recess there for it to fit. Some of these pieces that fit inside something else. Oh, this guy's also screaming. Give me another round, damn it. Wow, I don't know if this is a great fit. Well, we'll have to use some weld cement. I may have to glue these guys in place, but that's okay. It's not likely that we're going to use them as knocked out vehicles. Does he stand on his own? He does, good. This guy's field cap almost looks like a kepi. Okay, he's good to go. Okay. Might as well clean these guys up. How many people on here? 7? I don't know what you guys are using me for, just background or driving around or... What's everybody's what are we doing, Germans? What's everybody's favorite German vehicle? Favorite German and least favorite German vehicle. World War II. I think this thing's ugly as shit. That's the only reason I don't like it. I think the weapon is excellent. I just don't think it's very attractive. Just like I don't like some of their Steyr trucks are ugly as shit. They're really, really ugly on the... But for the most part, I think the German stuff looks good. That's one of the reasons why it's popular. That's got to be one of the reasons why so many model manufacturers make. Painting French World War II. I think those vehicles are cool. I think the French vehicles are pretty neat. If they just had 2-man turrets. Just a 2-man turret is incredibly more useful than a 1-man turret. A 1-man turret is just like, it's just a bad idea. It's like almost like a vehicle that needs to be like laying an ambush. Having a 1-man turret. Jack, good morning. Just back from morning walk. Will now listen along as I paint early Crusaders. I can't believe that they made Kingdom of Heaven not about the First Crusade. But then, they would have just ruined it, so. Your favorite is the Panzer IV. Which version of it? Because it's all over the place. I don't like Schertzen. I'll be honest with you. That doesn't mean I won't have vehicles with it. I'm not a Schertzen fan. So I don't like a 4H because, I'm sorry, H. And because it just covers up all the cool knickknacks. And I don't like a Panzer IV without the turret storage behind it. So ones in France are out. So the 4Ds, Es, F1s, F2s, Gs. I didn't know the G. I just found this out recently. F2 wasn't really a designation until after, let's see, they came out like around May. So after like June or July, they weren't called F2s anymore. They were just Gs. So they're just like early version Gs. And I always called them F2s, and everybody knows that F2 is the one that has the bulbous muzzle brake on the 43 caliber 75 millimeter gun. Panzerjäger 1 favorite. There you go. Least SDKFZ 9s. Man, I don't know my 9s. The 10 is the one. The 11 is the one the 250 is based on, right? And the 10 is the one the 251 is based on. And the 7 is the one you see the 88s pulled with. What's an SDKFZ 9? All right. Let's learn. I can get my books too, but this is quicker. SDKFZ 9. SDKFZ. It's funny that you use SDKFZ for all of the soft skins or lightly armored ones. You know, I know them all, but you know, these tank destroyers have SDKFZ things as well, but I don't know them. I don't know what they are. As them SDKFZ 9, the FAMO. Oh, that's the heaviest one. Oh, you don't like that, huh? That's kind of an odd choice to not like, but okay, fair enough. I think it looks pretty, it looks kind of sinister. The one with the extra armor around the turret. You mean the Schertzen? Yeah, lots of people like Schertzen. I don't like them. I think it hides the vehicle. Panzerjäger 1. That's an unusual choice for be a favorite one. That's good. When I grew up, everybody's favorite one was a Panther. I mean, it's not even, you know, I like them, but, you know, they don't come in gray. The Panthers only come in gray if you're there on the cover of that video. What was that computer game called? Conf Group? That had a Panzer III and a 4 and it had a bunch of German tanks in a formation, and they were all in gray. I always wanted to play that game and never got a chance to play it because it didn't run on the computers that I had. It probably would suck by today's standards, but all right, where in the hell would this guy even go? Maybe like this? Yeah, maybe like that. Okay. Well, I don't have to glue them in. Like, this guy can kind of stand on his own. This guy will come off the stand. That's 2. Let's look at the other guys that are on seats. Oh, we got this dude. God, the weld cement is a blessing. We brought the tweezer back from the garage. Where can we sneak this guy and put him in? It certainly fits here. Now we're up to 4 crewmen. That's good. Who else we got in here? Is he the same as this one? No, it's a different leg. Let's see what we got here. Enjoying a paint along on paying Napoleonic Russian militia. That sounds like a lot of drab looking dudes. You don't have a German vehicle you particularly dislike. They were all pretty lean and mean. They were. They all look wicked. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one. And there's some versions that didn't make production, like weird versions of Panzer Is and stuff like that that are just odd looking. For the most part, German stuff looks pretty popular. I'm not a Tiger lover. I know lots of people used to like the Tiger. I think of the Tiger like the Bismarck. A lot of people think the Bismarck is really overrated, and it is in some respects. But I kind of feel the Tiger is kind of the same way. God, where do some of these hands go with? Okay, this is the tank commander. He gets these hands, I think. All right, how many bodies here that need hands? 1, 2, and this guy just pulled off 3. Okay, are there 3 sets of hands? 1. Well, this guy needs a head too, and there's only one head out here. It's this one, so he gets that head. It's working it out logically. A lot of this stuff is not for beginners. They're not beginner-friendly things, I don't think. This is the kind of stuff that just blew me in my mind as a kid. I just start gluing all the wrong stuff and just like, oh man, this was supposed to be for that. I can't unglue it now. He's got 2 left arms now. Sorry, what can I say? I like I don't like German vehicles without the storage container on them behind the turret, unless it doesn't get one, like the Panzer II-C or whatever. I'm okay with them. They look okay. Panzer I's kind of ugly. The running gear is unattractive. Sounds like you could make a creature from The Thing, a sci-fi movie. I need to see that again. I saw it only one time and I wasn't impressed, nor that I think it was scary. And that was kind of one of those movies that everybody thinks really highly of that movie. So when I went to go see it, I didn't see it. Couldn't watch a rated R movie in 1982 or 81 or wherever it came out. By the time I got around to seeing it, it just didn't seem very scary, anything. Do you even see the creature? It's just like a doppelganger, right? It turns itself into other people. The Antarctica one, right? Kurt Russell. I was disappointed with it. But, I get disappointed with stuff when you expect A and you get B. Or, you expect A and you get Q. I do think a movie that's still pretty strong is the other John Carpenter one. Isn't it John Carpenter, the Alien? I think the original Alien is still a strong movie. Okay, this guy looks like he might be a guy putting a shell in. Why would the shell be here next to this stuff? I bet these two arms go with him. This shell goes with these two arms which go with him. And this guy has a choice of having the binoculars up or by the side. Kind of like the Panther Commanders used to be. You'd always get these Panther Commander figures, and they were always like this. They were like bracing themselves, like, "Oh man, I'm about to shit my pants. Better hold it." You know, it seems like the position they were in. It didn't matter whether it was a model kit by Tamiya and 1/35th scale or the Eschi Panther. They always had this position, like, you know, this extremely wooden, like, you know, you're clenching your butt cheeks. Turned itself into 3-tank German tank crew with 3 hands. Yep. Is a 3-handed tank crew uniform, is that still designed by Hugo Boss? Or do they have to call somebody else in for that one? Yeah, and I don't like the double-breastedness of it. You know, having the uniform that's like, it just, with a tie, it just seems weird. But, you know, it all depends what you like. I like my Germans with jack boots better than the little short boots. I mean, that's what makes them German, is those damn jack boots. You know, I know they used them both. I paint them both. I'm just saying perception. Be a good name for a blog page. The Germans wore jack boots. I had a blog page, kind of, and I stopped. It's just a lot of work and just didn't seem like it got much traffic or much commentary on it. So I'm like, why am I doing all this for very little value? All right, let's see if we can make these 2 hands work. Let's celebrate the return of the tweezer from the garage. This guy looks like he's playing charades. Okay, what is the... Germans, the Wehrmacht charades. Well, this has like a little spot on his leg that is indented. So this is definitely the arm that goes there. Yep, that's definitely the arm that goes there like that. So this is the shell guy. This is the guy that has the pack round. Okay, let's go ahead and take the pack round out. All right, what about Soviet vehicles? What's your least favorite Soviet vehicles? It actually sits on there pretty well. What a blessing to be working with plastic figures. I can't believe I said that. Oh, I don't mind the lead ones as long as I don't have to glue things on them. If they come as is, I'm good. The worst thing about Soviet vehicles is their markings. If their markings were anywhere close to being on par with the Germans, it would be so much more attractive. Because a lot of them are just, they didn't focus on that, certainly. Haphazard and yep, that's gonna sell it just like that. But I think the lines on something like a 234-85, I think the 234-85 is a good looking vehicle. I hate those Su-76Is that they converted from the German Panzer IIIs. I hate those things. I'm not a fan of captured vehicles, anyways. And they just, not a fan of those things at all. I'm probably never going to build one. They didn't make that many of them to begin with. They didn't convert that many to begin with, so it's pretty much something you could just forget anyways. You know very little about Russian tanks, but they were really an ugly one with a big square-shaped turret. Oh, you talking about a KV-2? That's a favorite. Lots of people like that thing. Not a fan of the 237. Yeah, it's pretty damn ugly, isn't it, Jeffrey? The T40's cute. The T60's cute. T70's a good-looking vehicle. Looks wise. You don't want to be in any of them. T26s have grown on me. I think T26s can be pretty boring. The T26s with two turrets on the front is pretty ugly vehicle, I think. KVs all look good. All the T34s look good. The T50 is a great looking vehicle. Kind of like the successor of the BT7, the BT7M successor. KV2, the problem is that it's such a big turret, so it just invites people writing, your mother was a hamster, on the side of it, or, and Cyrillic, of course. Your mother has one tooth in her skull, just like mine, Oh, man. And then this guy's a tank crewman as well. I mean, a self-propelled gun crewman. Man, how many do we have? I think we got plenty. If you put this guy in chairs, if we put this guy in the chair too, also on there, and this is only one sprue. I've got 3 sprues of these. So, Not an expert on World War II Russian vehicles, but there's some weird looking stuff. BA-10M medium armored car. Does it know what it wants to be? Yeah. Well, the 10M is the better looking than the 6. As the 6 has the T-26 turret, so it's very slab sided. That's the one I have. The 10 is pretty like streamlining, but also from the 1920s. You know, you like virtually all early war Soviet. I think as a whole, the Soviet vehicles are attractive. I think as a whole, they're attractive. What makes them unattractive is just that how they were haphazardly painted. You know, what about British kit? You know, one that's grown on me that I thought was particularly ugly and has grown on what it looks like is the A13. I thought the A13 was unattractive, mainly because of its road wheels, but it's kind of grown on me. I like Crusaders. I pretty much like all the early British stuff. The late war stuff, I am not a fan of the Comet. I am not. It's just too short. Now, that means it probably was effective hiding and stuff, but I'm just saying as a modeler, it just looks too small. You know, same thing going back to the Russian tanks. The JS2s just aren't big enough. You know, they're just not a big enough vehicle for a vehicle that packs a, you like the BA-64. Cute little go-kart thing. A JS2 just isn't physically big enough for something that carries a 122 millimeter gun. You know, weighs the same as a Panther. Now, Panther is significantly larger. And a lot more crew comfort. A JS2 has a tiny amount of ammo. It has like slightly over 20 rounds. I want to say 22 rounds. And sure, it's got a slow firing gun, but British, as far as British go, yeah, I don't like the late war stuff. You know, when they started putting like white stars on them, and it's like, it's almost American. Go ahead and put the white star on it. What do you mean? An Archer with a white star? I'm not putting a white star on my Archer. You were drooling over some Matilda 1s and 2s earlier. Well, the Matilda 2s are just classic. I mean, you know, the Matilda 2s are the Tiger tank of Britain. You know, it's a shame that the weapon didn't have high explosive, you know, and it wasn't a little bit bigger. Because a Matilda with like a 6-pounder with HE, well, it wouldn't be a Matilda, but yeah, they're basically indestructible. Unless you bring over, you know, some high velocity packs. A13 had plenty of target area on the front turret, not as angles as side for deflection. Like all the cruiser tanks, particularly the Crusader 3 with a 6-pounder and the Covenanter. You know, I read the other day that the 6-pounder Crusader had only a 2-man turret because the gun, the breech of the gun was so far in to the turret, it didn't allow for a third crew member. And they took the whole machine gun out. And this might be common knowledge to you, but my focus hasn't been on British tanks, mainly because I haven't gamed them in a long time. Not that I dislike them. I like them very much. But they took the whole machine gunner out for on the Crusader 3 for extra ammo, because the ammo's bigger, obviously, because 2-pounder ammo is tiny comparatively. And they had to go to a 2-man turret, because the breech was so far into the gun. And if you look at the 6-pounder, the gun on a 6-pounder Crusader does not stick that far out of the turret. So a considerable amount of the gun the rear of it is inside the turret instead of hanging out. I don't know why they did that, but I read about that. I'm like, really? And then I look at it, I'm like, yeah, the barrel. I mean, the 6-pounder is a pretty long barreled gun. What is it, like 53 caliber or something like that? That's a pretty long barrel gun, and it didn't stick outside of the barrel of the turret that much. So I was surprised to hear that. They had some in Gazala, so that's when they started showing up. But that's a really effective weapon, especially for the desert. That's especially in 1942. 1942, that's a great weapon. Yeah, the A13, the only thing I don't like about the A13 is the wheels on them are just like, shit, we ran out of wheels. All right, put these tables on their side and we'll put them, because they're just totally smooth. It just looks strange, you know? It looks like some classroom in the 1970s or something like that. They just put those tables. I don't know. It just looks out of place. The Covenanter. I've paid no attention to the Covenanter because I didn't see action. So I kind of lost interest in it because of that. Okay, so here's the other guy that's sitting down. This guy's got a peaked cap, which kind of looks out of place in my opinion. We'll just pull all these guys out and decide who's going to go on what. But I wouldn't mind populating all these vehicles with them. What are we up to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we still have one to go, right? Yep. You think the Commonwealth had to adopt the star for easier recognition. However, they would place the star at slight angle, the point not being vertical. Interesting. I did not know that. I'll have to look into that. But I won't have that problem because I'm not putting the star on Commonwealth vehicles. I'm just not going to do it. It just seems silly. It just seems silly. I'm not a typical American when it comes to stuff like that. Like I get upset that they make a movie about a convoy, right? That Greyhound, and it's not a Commonwealth destroyer. Why the hell would it not be a Commonwealth destroyer? I mean, the Battle of Atlantic had been going on for 3 years, the roughest 3 years before the U.S. even got in it. And then most of the Fletchers went to the Pacific. I don't know there was that many Fletchers in the Atlantic. But anyhow, I look at stuff like that. I'm like, the naval war gamer in me gets out like, that's just ridiculous. And then they make up names for the, what was the name of that destroyer in it? Silly. The British destroyers have awesome. I don't know. I know it's a make-believe story about an American author or something like that, but I'm like, if you're gonna do something about Battle Atlantic, it's got to be a Brit destroyer. Come on, man. I'm not one of those that, hey, let's put Americans and stuff so people can relate. Like what, U-571? That was an abortion of a movie. And then what was the other one? Oh, I actually started watching. I caught one episode of Rat Patrol and I couldn't watch it. I'm like, why is there Americans in the freaking desert? It should be, it should be Long Range Desert Group or something, Do I like the Italian tanks? The L6 is cute. Holly weird, yeah. Well, as historical war gamers, we want to see what it may have looked like. They just want to make a buck, so We started watching that. What is it? Rogue. What is it? Rogue Heroes or whatever. I watched one episode with the daughter, and she enjoyed it more than I did. I didn't. I didn't care for AC/DC music in 1942 or 41. Come on, man. What do you take me for? Okay, I'm gonna let's take these arms off and see if this works. I'm disappointed that the Plastic Soldier Company set that comes with like extra commanders and like road wheels and stuff like that is as expensive as it is. It's just like spare parts, but I guess it costs just much to just as much to package it. But I wanted some spare road wheels for my Czech 38s. Throw one on the back for spares. I've seen in photos, but I'm not spending $30 for that. That's a bad value. And ship it to you as well. If it was like sitting on a shelf or something like that. Hollyweird. He said the hardest part sometimes is just being able to hold this in a place where you can get at something that you got to take the flash off of. All right, does this bastard look like he fits? Yes, it fits right on his knee. Okay, cool. No, I still haven't test fitted all the crooked spider flags that I made. I went and I made them the same way that I do my normal like medieval flags. Just taking some art off the internet and then just with my paint program just draw on it like I normally would with my painting style. And it works pretty well. It matches what my stuff looks like, but it ended up printing them, and it didn't print them what they look like on the screen. It ended up elongating them a little bit more. And I think they may be okay because they're going to end up getting draped over stuff, but I'd show you what they are, but you know, they're not exactly a friendly thing to put on the internet, so we'll leave it at that. I don't want to get into trouble with people sending me things like, hey, your video's been banned because you showed a crooked spider flag on there. I'm like, yeah, I'm not promoting those Nazi fuckers, you know? It's like this, I'm building German stuff. German stuff looks cool, their uniforms look cool, but they were rat bastards, you know? That's why I like the Eastern Front. Those other guys were rat bastards too. Double rat bastard. Like I said earlier, I'm okay with the swastikas being banned. I don't like anything being banned, but you know, I get it. I understand why, but you need to ban communist shit too, because those people did a lot of horrible stuff to a lot of folks too. So, oh, where did we go overboard? Well, the floor is clean, so it should be pretty easy to find. Should be. here it is. I'm not particularly clumsy, but some of this stuff, I'm like really surprised how much patience it takes. I have it, but I'm thinking, man, how many people have just gotten impatient? We are going to put some on the chest. I just don't want to throw a bunch of stuff on there. Just and it be a spot that doesn't get glued down. All right, let's put a little bit here. You're right, the Russian militia, pretty depressing. Another life. If you tackle Napoleonics, if you won the lottery, we'd pay you to do them in the amount of detail you go into. I would. Well, it's just not my period, but if I did do Napoleonics, I would definitely use the Old Glory figures that my hero Dave Alsop did. Because they're freaking gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. And I know that there's other folks that people love AB and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with AB figures. I have some of their tank commanders. I think they're good. But Dave Alsop had a way of giving each person a personality, each figure a personality, without it being like weird faces and stuff. I don't know. I just, his style just really connected with me. So... I remember seeing some Austrians that another player had, and I could tell right away that it was his sculpting with the German helmets, and that's what I would do. Austrians, those guys look awesome. And it's not a protective helmet at all, right? It's probably like the early World War I German helmets that didn't do shit. It was just like cork and crap. But I think they look pretty sweet. You're going to say, painting Nap Russians caused me to abandon Napoleonics for 20 years. Yeah. Well, the other thing keeping me from doing Napoleonics is that Mitch has so much stuff. If I ever want to play it, I just never got into the period. I don't hate the period. I just never got into it. Hating the period would be like American Civil War. I hate that. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in. I don't like playing Americans to begin with, and then you're telling me I have to play. It's only Americans fighting Americans. Like, that's boring. Okay, we can get these guys to fit in different places at some time. How many guys we got? We got like 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 3. Oh, 7. Oh, I didn't glue him in, but he stayed in there. That's enough. I think between these crewmen, we can certainly make the crewmen for both of the Marders. I think that the 2 candidates that are sitting on chairs are perfect candidates for the Marder III. And it's a 3-man tank crew. I mean, it's a 3-man gun crew, right? And then 1 driver. I'm pretty sure they're 4-man crews. So that's how we'll paint these guys when we get around to doing that. I think these figures aren't bad. They're still not as good as the old Airfix Africa Core and Desert Rats. And I still have them. I have a whole pile of them, but I think they're too soft to use for most things. Any of you guys bought any 3D printed stuff from somebody that's really good? I was looking online. There's a company called Battlefield 3D, and they're in the UK, of course, the land of toys. Why would it not be in the UK? And their stuff looks pretty good. I'd like to get a half dozen A13s for a scenario that came in that Rommel book. And it's just a tank on tank scenario. That's kind of, I may just, try to replicate that scenario with like an Eastern Front equivalent. But the A13s, you can't get them anywhere without them being 3D printed or something inside of, not available anymore. But the 3D printed ones don't have hatches you can open. And I'd like at least one of them to have an open hatch. To have a commander in it. Just for looks. Okay, let's take all these guys. Move them over here. Is the base on the Panzer III, wherever the hell it is. Did it dry? No. Okay. Then we will not do that next. Is this dryish? Yes. Okay, then we're going to hold it by here. We're going to paint the bottom. I hate having to hop around like this, but good, it's still alive. Perfect. I'm going to try to not use spray paint for this and see how it goes. My wife was getting concerned. You shouldn't be breathing that stuff in. I said, I'm not breathing it in, but I am. Even with a garage opened, it's just so damn stinky. Let me go fire up the airbrush, the crappy airbrush, and most of the problem with the airbrush is the suction issue. You get it going and then it stops working. And that's even with using the airbrush thinner that I specifically formulated. There's like enough of an air leak somewhere that you don't get enough pressure built up for it to suck. I'm guessing. It seems like that's what the problem is. There's someone on YouTube that paints a Battlefield 3D prints. Oh. Maybe I should search by Battlefield 3D. The price on them is not bad. It's the shipping that's brutal. The price isn't bad. I'd like to order 2 or something like that. I think that's the route I'm gonna go in though, because they look pretty clean. But it's nothing I gotta get even in the next 2 years. I got enough to keep me busy. As much as I want to go to the desert, I can put it off. I got enough stuff to. But you know what? I've stopped painting 15 mils after the last convention in September. So at the end of September. So basically all of October, November, December, and all of January. So in 4 months, I've got almost 50 vehicles done. I'm doing like 10 vehicles a month. And I'm not getting burned out on it because I can always switch to do something different. I feel like painting some gun crews. So you do something with a gun crew. It's not like slogging through more medieval infantry. But I'm not doing the 15s because I don't want to do the 15s. It's just that I'm just kind of done with with the rule set, you know. And I don't want to paint anything for a show. I'm kind of done with that too. You know, I'm gonna do things when I want to do them, so that I'm not like, oh, dreading doing the, you know, homework for a show. It's more that than anything else. And honestly, just painting these guys just to paint them, not necessarily paint them to play. So I'll have to check out the if I could find that channel. I just want to see what they look like in person, because I don't want to paint something with a bunch of, you know, lines and stuff that I'm gonna have to fix, and I got a limited amount of time. I'd like to spend it painting, and it's bad enough I got to spend time, you know, priming stuff or cleaning the flash off things. They have a ton of vehicles on that site too. There's plenty of private 3D printer guys who will print almost anything for you. Strap a good relationship with them, just send them the files. Where do you start with the files? I mean, to be honest with you, I don't want to get into 3D printing, but I'm going to tell you something. This is going to sound really strange for somebody that doesn't want to get into 3D printing. I would rather create my own files myself, because I used to do drafting. I mean, that's what my background is. You know, and I can draw. I'm telling you, I wouldn't mind creating the files, but I'm just not. I'm not a fan of computer stuff that's like, oh, it works one day and then the next day it doesn't work. You know, I don't all of a sudden forget how to paint from one day to another. Short of having a stroke, you know, I'm going to be able to come back in the morning and paint. You know, not this. Well, it didn't work today. And I actually took drafting the first year, computer aided drafting, the first year it was offered at the college. I want to say 1991, 91 or 92, one of those 3 years. And I had this big project and I worked on it. At the last minute, it didn't save and I lost my whole project. I had to retake the class. So I have a bad experience with computer things working one day and not the next. So I have no interest in doing the 3D printing from the standpoint of you know, they'll tell you like everything you got to do with it, but then it's not configured right with your computer and it's off. You know, I don't need that kind of frustration. You know, the actual files and stuff. Like, where do you go to like pick, you know, pick files? Can you take files and then modify them? Like, I don't like the way he did the lug nuts on this, so let me make them smaller. Where do you begin doing that kind of stuff? You know, maybe in 10 years or something like that, I might, it might be something that, but I got enough stuff to, it's a lot less frustrating to just say, you know what, F it, I'll just pay let's see, the tanks are what, 11, they're like 11 pounds each. So 6 of them is 66 pounds and the shipping is probably 20 pounds. So it's like $100, maybe $110 for them. I would rather throw $110 and not be frustrated. Because, you know, painting them's not going to be frustrating. This is all happy. This is all happy. You know, I got a guy that I know that he offered, he says, hey, I'll 3D print for you. But I don't want to get in this conversation where, you know, I know the guy and it's like, hey, I didn't like how this turned out. Because I'm kind of a perfectionist. And I don't want to be like, hey, I don't really like how this turned out. Well, you're a pain in the ass to deal with. Well, you're the one that offered to print things for me. You know, so, I mean, I'm going to spend a fair amount of time painting it. So I don't want to paint something that's garbage, you know. mean, I want it to look good. I want it to look good because I want it to look good, and it inspires other people to, look at the hobby. I've had several people that have made comments like, "Man, I'm glad you're doing this, that, or the other. I, I'm just getting back into so and so after 20 years, and your videos or whatever inspired me." Hey, that's what I like to hear. And other people have done the same thing to me. I mean, there's things I see on the internet, and I'm like, I gotta freaking do that. Honestly, the guy who got me back into this is that guy who's got a bunch of YouTube videos from Portugal, and he has just an absurd amount of 1/72nd scale stuff for rapid fire. And I'm like, if he can paint that many things, certainly I can paint the few things that I have. And it's a different scale. I'm not going to have that many vehicles for. I mean, I got enough as it is for what I'm doing, but that was kind of what I saw his videos, and I was just like, man, I need to do this now before I'm getting any older and can't do it. So, and I've been it's been a fun 4 months. I think when you can just turn on and print straight out of the box without hassle, every hobbyist will have 3D printers eventually. Yeah. Well, that's the thing with the internet is you can find the answer out there, but there's a lot of wrong answers out there, and sifting through the wrong answers is really frustrating, Just think of the news. How much wrong information is out there on the news? Most of it, And there's people out there that like to put out the wrong. Like, I'm a member in a couple of car forums, for my vehicle. Like, you want to do modifications or switch out the headlights and stuff, and people give just faulty information out all the time. And I don't know why they do it. Just to be dicks? I don't know. Too many people are afraid of saying, I don't know. I don't know everything. There's things I don't know, and I'm okay telling people I don't know anything about it. And some people are like, let me just spit something out. It just leads people astray and stuff. So it takes a while to sort through all that stuff. So here's an example of something that sucks. Here is the old Skytrex Check 38. And I don't know that I can do anything with this thing. I may eventually paint it and see if I can do something with it, but it is just absolute garbage. Compared to the Plastic Soldier Company. But I may paint it, but it's going to look like garbage because it almost has like a texture on it too. Yeah, it's like the casting has I think it's the casting. I don't think this was spray painted, so I don't know what I'd do with this thing. Maybe it isn't the casting. Maybe we should just sand it a little bit. But anyhow, it's undersized compared to the other ones and pretty basic looking. All right. And this poor Humber I picked up from the estate sale. I can't salvage it. I can't get the turret to turn. It's welded. I've tried sticking an X-Acto blade all the way through there, and I have no use for an armored car that the turret won't turn on it. I mean, where the turret is pointing is huge, and what I'm doing with it's a sexy armored car. I don't know what we'll do. We're obviously not going to throw it away, but if that turret turned, I would have already painted it. I would have already been like, hey, this is what the desert looks like, and this is what my desert basing is going to look like. I wouldn't have been able to resist that. I would have been already all up in that. Okay, the tank crew, let's go ahead. That is still wet, so let's go ahead and take some pennies and glue the tank crewmen down so that we can base them in black, and they'll be ready to paint when I make the two vehicles, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to do the two Marders back to back. And that's the only two Marders that I have. 7, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I don't want to spend the money on a 3D printer and it caused me frustration. Because what I do here is zero frustration, which is why I continue to do it. I was reading an old article about something. It might have been a lemonade stand or something like that. Here in I want to say the 1950s or something like that. And it had a sign that said lemonade 2 cents. And I'm like, it must have been wonderful to grow up in a period where if you saw this on the ground, if you saw the smallest coin on the ground sitting there, it was worth picking up. Like, these aren't worth picking up. I mean, they're useful for the basing and stuff, and I reuse them, but actual pennies, even nickels, I don't have a use for. Well, I don't carry any cash with me anyway, so I mean, I use cash, but it's all, visible. Yeah, I'll put that away, even though we're going to need it here pretty soon. Where's my super glue? One of the few things I have confidence in super glue to do is to glue figures down. I could use a glue maybe that's not as strong, but I know these guys aren't going to pop off. Comrade Popov. We're going to have to do something creative with him. And that guy. This guy's stand is just too big. We got to do something about this. We got to do something about that. Because none of the other guys are on stands. Why the hell is he on one? So let's get my snips first. Yeah, these will work. And let me take a file. That should do it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do with him. This guy can just be glued in place. Oh, he's back heavy. Great. But this guy too. Damn Nazis. Okay, I'm gonna go light. I'm gonna go really light on this. I'm going to only put one drop under 1 foot. And we're going to move his happy ass all the way over here. Out of the way. Okay. Should be able to do the same thing with this one. You bought 19 Airfix Tigers, jeez, from eBay years ago. Got decals for the 1st SS Panzer Division. Did a conversion to see if I could make the turret box, which they don't have. Oh, you know what that would be a good candidate for? Early Tigers. Because the early Tigers, meaning the ones they used in 1942, those have the boxes from Mark IVs in them. Yeah, Tiger without that box is just ugly. I wonder why they chose to make it without the box. They never got finished, but the one conversion turned out okay. I also put the exhaust guards. Oh, they didn't have that either. Man, they're really basic. Really basic kits then. actually be able to put this guy, glue him like this. Can I do the same thing with this one? No, you know what? We're not doing that. Let's grab, I mean, before I talk big and bad, let me make sure it's available here. Let's put this stuff on here. Let's see if we can get this to stick. It's pretty old. All right, cool. We got enough for these other guys too. Let's see if I take off. We don't need much for those two guys. So if I take this, I've never painted SS. At some point, I got some troopers to do. I may do SS, but just for this challenge of doing the camouflage, there we go, that worked. And but never done them. Okay, now I'm going to work on this in a non-logical fashion. I may do the wet dry, but that makes a mess. That paste it makes. We're going to be here all year if we continue doing that. All right, let's get the wet dry. Let's see if I can find the wet dry. Although all of this may be wet dry, honestly. Usable for both. But I'm talking about the one that's legit. I know where it would be if I have it. Let's go to the closet. I haven't used this since early 90s. Wet sanding. I think this will work. I don't know if this is legitimate wet dry sandpaper, but I got enough of this stuff. All right, let's cut us a square. Made in Canada. Wow. Back when they used to make things in Canada that wasn't maple syrup. About the only thing you can find in the store made in Canada. Alright, let's go wet that. Now find some other one. Sand. Oh, this one's made in my favorite place. Oh, this is from the hobby store. Holy shit. This stuff is 1995 or earlier, for sure. Why, dude, I rip off a piece of this? There's one here, it's like missing a piece. Yeah, let's pull that one out. Getting excited about sandpaper. All right, let's go wet those two. I'll be right back. You know, part of patience is not having any expectations, not having a project that you have to get done in an hour and a half or it's going to be the end of the world. Just, you get done when you get done, and it's just going to take as long as it's going to take, and that's it. At least I do well in that environment. Now, normally I would probably take off the edges so I'm not sanding that down. Let me try that. There's enough of this. So here's another thing that is a lot easier to work with in plastic than metal. Okay, now luckily this is a one-piece figure. Let's use the Canadian one first. It's certainly quicker. All right, let's do the Chinese one. I don't know that this is legitimate wet dry sandpaper, but man, the particles are really, really small. And it's working pretty well. Maybe I'm used to resin, that's what it is. I'm used to resin and it makes like a paste. This is taking a lot less time than I thought it was going to. close. Yep, we've almost popped through. Look at that. Pop through the legs. Excellent. He doesn't quite stand up straight, but yeah, he does. That's how it's done, folks. Well, that went a lot better than I thought it was going to. Hadn't done that since about 1991. Use wet, dry sandpaper. Excellent. Let's just clean this up. Yeah, but part, at least for me, for the patients, is just like, okay, we're going to work on this, and you don't have a time frame when it's got to get done by. And you guys help out tremendously, just allowing me to just stay on track and not get sidetracked by, you know, checking out a YouTube video where somebody's painting Battlefield 3D miniatures. Going down the rabbit hole that's the internet, you know. So this guy, we should be able to put a spot of glue on this penny and he'll be good to go. And painting figures, yeah. That part's easy. I've only been doing that for decades. So we'll put it on both, but just a tiny little bit. And I just get an X-Acto knife underneath it and then just pop it up. That works for me. Okay, so he's done. Excellent. Alright, do I have plastic on my hands? I don't know. I'm not too worried about shit like that, but I got this stuff right here though. I bought hand sanitizer at the store that was huge to refill the one I have in the car, and like, why'd you buy so much hand sanitizer? It's buy one, get one free. So I just left one here. It's like, that works, you know? You got any paint on them? I hate having paint on my hands. Okay. How's that base look now? Is it done? Still wet. Okay. Well, we can't. Yeah, we can paint these guys in black that are not super glued down. We can go ahead and do that. That's still part of this project. We'll leave that one last. You don't want to get super glue on a brush because then it creates problems. Okay, that's not alive anymore. So let's get some more of this black stuff. And no, I didn't wash the figures. I don't wash plastic stuff. Because the problem with it isn't washing it. The problem is drying it. And then you have a wet figure. It involves too much planning. I haven't found the need to have to do that. Shit, how'd it get to be 8? Almost. Can't find that channel, not showing in my watch list either. Was seeing his channel where he found that about Battlefield 3D. Oh, I bet I could find it. If it's out there, I could find it. Speaking of dioramas, that stuff that was inspirational, that video that I found the other day. Well, I didn't post it on here. I posted it on on my YouTube page. I'm on my Facebook page, but there's that. I found the one video of some folks from Australia that made a Stalingrad map that I thought that was really, really inspirational. And there was another guy. There's this guy in the UK. I think it's a guy whose name goes by Troop of Shoe, something like that. They had made a huge grain elevator that was, I want to say it was the size of like this cart. It was huge. It was 3 foot tall for sure. And, in 20 mil to fight over. And I think they were selling it at one point, but, that's the kind of stuff that you see like, oh, that's the kind of environment I want to play in. But I'm going to have a good looking battlefield. It's not going to be, Stalingrad ruins or anything like that. That's going too much in just only one direction, but I won't put on games. The Battlefield's definitely going to look good. It's going to be, magazine worthy. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to throw stuff out there and like have all kinds of bright, wild colors and that's what my motivator is to paint this stuff, is to have inspirational looking games. The only thing about the game is there are counters involved. There are counters that you got to put behind the figures to kind of, mark their status. But other than that, that's the kind of stuff I like to see. I like to see things like that. They're like, man, I really motivated by something I saw. There was I went to the bookstore yesterday, which is kind of unusual, but I had to go get a gift certificate for somebody. But I went to the bookstore and I looked through the magazines and I saw a copy of Strategy and Tactics, not with the game in it, because they have, I think you can buy the magazine and also with the game and not without a game. But it was a game, it was an article that they had a game for that was, whoa, this Joker's moving. I may have to glue the 1 foot down. Russian expansion into Afghanistan in like the 1800s. And that's something I thought I was going to get into. And I decided to go to World War II instead of doing that. I think it was the right choice. Because this is where my heart is. My heart's always been this. The only reason I don't like World War II is if I'm playing a game that just doesn't have the amount of detail I want of it. But all right, let's try this. We're gonna put a little dollop. That's more than a dollop, but and then we'll do the same with the other dude. The cough is back. I had it yesterday and it went away for a little bit. Sanding that stuff probably didn't help either, but I think that's more coincidence than anything else, because I wasn't doing any sanding at all yesterday or working any dusting things. And came back. Planning on building my own terrain? Yes and no. I'm going to look at some 3D printing stuff, which there's just a ton of stuff right now available, but I didn't like those paper buildings. I'm not motivated to play a game with those paper buildings. So the Pegasus makes them in plastic. I just don't want to go down a rabbit hole of I'm buying a bunch of stuff and not doing anything with it. So we'll buy them and do them when we're ready to do them next. But building my own out of sticks and stuff, As much as I'd like to do it, I just don't have the time. That's the time I can save by buying something commercially available is huge. And I've got some resin buildings, but they're not for Russia. They're for Normandy. I want to say they're from a company called the Queen's Hussars. I got them a while ago and they're just sitting in a box. And they are ultra heavy. Ultra heavy. I see if this guy's simmered down a little bit. Yeah, that's all it took. Yeah, the problem with everything is the shipping, because I don't want to order a bunch of stuff just to get a break on the shipping, and then I'm overwhelmed with having too many things, and I just give up. If I have too many things out here on the table that I'm working on, I just get like, I don't know what to do next and quit. And I don't want to do that. I don't have I don't have time to quit. And I don't think this is gonna make it. Jackass wearing a tie. This ain't working great either. No, I'm sure we will overcome this. I had a. I'm just gonna grab him by his foot and hell with it. I had some a Russian building, or I was going to plan on building a couple of Russian buildings. And I had gone into a store and I saw like a place that sells like little boxes. And it was like this building. Well, it was this little box that was like the perfect size for like a Russian house. And I'm like, okay, I could just add spackle to the outside to give it some texture, and then take milliput or something like that to put on the roof, make the roof out of it with different, the different shapes, and and I did that, and it was so fragile that it turned me off from doing any buildings on my own. But that was I did that pre-internet, so you couldn't like share ideas like, "Hey, what'd you use for straw?" or something like that for the roof. So that was kind of a non-event. Nothing happened with it, but things have changed significantly because there's a lot more things available. It's a lot easier to share things that work with other people, so we're not all struggling and trying to invent the wheel at the same time. You know. All right, I'm gonna take a short potty break, and I will be back in a few minutes. And hopefully we can work on the basing here of this thing. Yeah, we should be able to do that next. Okay, be right back, folks. Okay, we're back. Having a little bit of cold coffee. Something to snack on. And in my haste, not really my haste, I got distracted, didn't paint the last, the guy who we sanded down. So, once again, is this dry enough? I think it is. I never. Oh well, we're just gonna get paint on us. Fuck it. Okay. Don't want to have to do that later. This stuff actually works really well on plastic. Anyhow, let's get something out here we can dry brush on top of. And then dry brush this, and then epoxy these two tanks down. Really happy with the way the Airfix trucks turned out. Really turned out very well. And I didn't have high expectations for them. That's the real thing. That's the real difference whether something turns out really well or not. You think like, I'll just throw these together because I've had them for 30 something years, and it's either use them or donate them. And those model kits I did not enjoy building. Too many weak points in the between the axle and the wheels where they can just break real easy. Being careful. So hopefully they end up being pretty durable on the stands, but who knows? Just gonna have to hope for the best. This one's been abused. So but I'm still kind of bummed out that took me how many years of wargaming. So I bought a terrain map and then been really unsatisfied how it turned out. So I could either do one of two things. Keep throwing money at the problem and get other terrain maps, sight unseen. Not do any gaming or whatever until that, or just keep plugging along, getting these things done. And the right one will come around at the right time. Hell, maybe I find out I want to make one out of teddy bear fur, you know. But stop the creation of all this to track that one thing down in the right way, because I'm just going to get frustrated. I won't have all these vehicles that I would have painted. You know, and it's a lot different to have a terrain mat after you have all your figures done than beforehand. Like, well, why did I even bother buying this terrain mat? I don't even have any figures to play on it. So it'll straighten itself out, I'm sure, at some point. But note to self, don't buy terrain mats sight unseen. So, the show that's coming up, I'm not bringing any of my armies to them. I'm not even playing DVA, so I'm going to bring a small container that I can leave in the car with several of my vehicles in it. And if somebody has a terrain map for sale, hold on, let me go to the car, bring them out. I said, can I roll this out? No, you can't. I'm not buying it. I want to be able to roll it out and see what the vehicles look on it, because the Tiny War Games UK mat, color-wise, is perfect. You know, the one with the grass, it's perfect. It matches, you know, it's just glossy, and it has those creases in it that it shouldn't have from being in storage. I'm actually fine that it's as thin as it is, but it's less than ideal. So, but color-wise, it's perfect. And it's an accurate representation, and it was the, you know, because some of them are like pretty bright. Some terrain mats are like pretty bright. And that one is not that. The coloration on it is how it needs to be. And you could tell there's some kind of like fibers in it or whatever. Not fibers, but there's like some cross hatching in it. And I kind of like that, honestly. I liked it when you get in real close, you know, with your contacts out. You could see some cross hatching in it. I just wish it wasn't glossy. Semi-glossy. And that it wasn't, it didn't have those crease marks on it. So I'm going to keep looking. And but I'm going to take the stuff with them so I can put some vehicles on it and go like, okay, I like how that looks. Or, you know, it's one of those things that if you look at it if I go and play on that, and you take photos, you're going to have to take photos at the right angle so the ground doesn't look all like, you know, like it just rained. But I'm not letting that get me down. F it. We got lots of vehicles to do. The more vehicles I get done, the more things I have to play on the playmat, the more reason I have to go and get one. If you go and buy like 4 playmats now, but you have no vehicles done, you're like, man, I just pissed away money just doing that. So. You think you're going for a double-sided one? Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. I wouldn't mind having a snow one. And I want to get a really big one. I want the 4x8. I want a big... I'm telling you, with this actual scale, I went to Mitch's house the other day, and I'm like, okay, if we played on this table, it's only 4 foot across. So let's do some math here, and I can't use my phone, so I'll have to use my computer. How do I even do this? It's almost easier to do it by hand. Let's see, is there an app here called Calculator? Gotta be. Yeah. So open up the calculator map. Some people struggle with this math stuff a lot, but man, I do this shit all the time. But I gotta think about, I better not use this. I better use a real mouse. Okay, because I'll do fumbles. All right, so it's 48 inches across. Okay. 48 inches across. And I want it in centimeters. Okay, because a centimeter is an inch. Not what I meant to say. A centimeter is a meter. So it's 48 inches times 2.54. There's 2.54 centimeters in each inch. The battlefield's only 122 meters of width. So it's a battlefield that's basically 242 by 244 by 122 meters across. That's a tiny little vignette zoom in portion of a battle. So you're talking like if you do have a tank battle, you're talking about the ranges at Prokhorovka when they're talking about the T-34s and the Tiger 1s basically like ramming each other. But, the battlefield also, each turn is like 15 seconds. So, it's not meant for, a standard play that most people are used to. It's all zoomed in. And that's what I want, Actually, I wouldn't mind a bigger battlefield, like 20 feet or something like that. But, I want that kind of detail. I want that, this vehicle and this vehicle are, 10 feet from each other. Not that, well, this is actually 100 meters. And I don't want that, because then you got a tank that represents multiple vehicles. And I'm fine playing those 1 to 5 skill games, but I've done it before. It doesn't motivate me to create these vehicles for this and have those that, it's just not what I want to simulate, simply. So this one's done. For this one, they're almost the same footprint. It's hard to believe what a piece of shit this thing looked like before. I am really happy with how this thing turned out. And I actually like the AK paints. I do. They're watery, and they're probably too watery for me, but I've been able to overcome that. The advantage is they don't have any brush strokes. Now, the problem with it is, and this doesn't bug me a lot because of imperfections, if you look at, see, this is what I'm talking about, showing mistakes, because I don't care, Let's see if I can give you and it doesn't look as yellow as it does here. It's warmer. Because it looks pretty green, honestly. Let's see if we can change that so you guys can see maybe what I'm looking at. Let's see. Extra delay, volume, boost, contrast. Can I do anything? I could take some of the brightness off, but it doesn't help at all. What about this? Oh, that's worse. Oh, that's also worse. Okay, let's just leave it alone. Oh, white balance, automatic. Okay, what about incandescent? Oh, hell no. What the hell is that? Warm fluorescent. Is that really the color that things are? Nah, it's pretty mustardy looking there. It's not that. I wouldn't be happy with that. Twilight. That didn't change really at all. Fluorescent. Well, that's just like faded color. And what did we have before? Daylight. What about cloudy daylight? Nah, it's too warm. The shade's not bad. It doesn't look this yellow. We'll just put it back where it is. Just trust me. They're daylight. These are daylight bulbs, so or daylight type bulbs. But if you look at the rear deck here, you get something small to point with, and you see these little like bubbles here. This is something that happened off the spray can. Oh, this is something that happened off the spray can, and it's visible in a couple of other places. There's some right here. So that's the problem with using the spray can is you're getting it in. It's pretty imperfect, but by and large, that's really the only place that really had it. And actually, this isn't too bad. You can tell all the different color differentiations, and you can tell the Agrax Earthshade did stuff here. See this, like this corner area added like that brown and stuff on there. It added all kinds of like little inconsistencies in color. Look at the back of the container here for the tank. And you know, my method is pretty fast considering how much detail you get out of it. That's a good picture of the cross. That's not freaking bad for hand painting, and honestly it was pretty easy to do. And it just allows me to make it the size that I want to make it, and not like, well, the decal's too big or it's folding over an edge or something like that. And this still looks, the picture for you guys looks a lot more yellow than it really is. It's a little bit, it's more subtle than that. Like I look at the screen, what you guys are seeing, and I'm like, man, that's pretty yellow. And then I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's not, it looks great. So, yeah, that Agrax Earthshade does make a big difference, even though you think it may not. And yeah, I think this turned out really, really well, considering. Yeah, that area around the machine gun and stuff. You just got to make that little stuff pop so you can see it at a distance. You know? And this is what I was talking about. Don't even paint the barrel of the gun. I mean, this is a flamethrower tank. If something ought to have a flame barrel, a flame-looking barrel, it's this thing. Here's the other one. And you can tell the numbers. I don't know if it's noticeable to you guys, but the numbers are a little out of register. Look at that 6. The 6 isn't perfectly in the white center. And these are good decals. I think these are the microscale ones, which are some of the best decals out there as far as I'm concerned. So I've got to make it didn't even come with you see the antenna, which is up. So I got to make something that like does like a 90-degree bend in it. But I can do it that at you know, some later date. Does this have any of those bubbles as well? Yeah. Yeah, look at the storage. The top of the storage thing here. There's some bubbling here. That's completely unintentional. That was part of the spray can. So somebody pointed out this, and whoever made the master mold of this, if you look at the top of the turret hatch, it actually has like the split here, and that's like the two padded things that would be on the inside. So it's almost like the reverse. It's the upside down. It's the reverse padding. It's on the inside. So what do you do with it? Do you switch the whole thing out? No, and it's all one piece, so you can't like take the lid and flip it or something like that. You just move on with it, and you know, it's just a, it is just a die cast thing. It's all one piece die cast thing. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. So, and I don't think it takes that long, honestly. You guys saw what I did. It took probably 4 hours from the beginning, even switching between stuff. It's probably, I don't know, maybe even 2.5 hours just dedicated doing this. So anyhow, I'm really happy with how it turned out. So, and ultimately that's what's important, because that's going to keep me creating stuff. If I get disappointed with how something looks, then I'm going to say, you know, F it, I'm better off doing something else, playing a video game or something like that. No, it's not from varnish, because I actually noticed it before when I started painting it. No, I've used very, very, very little varnish, because varnish will screw things up bigger than. I actually had some U.S. tanks that the varnish, if you put varnish on too heavy, and I actually never had it happen with figures. I had it happen with vehicles. Let me see if I can find the Sherman that did it. I'll show you what it is. It is. It's one of these two Shermans. These are all also die-cast kits. So one of these two Shermans has the part on the front that, yeah, this one. Hey, Steve. Thank you. Well, I better be, because it's years of practice. You know, and I see other people's stuff, and I'm like, oh, I want my stuff to look like that. So I'm like, I'm trying to dissect what they did. How many DBA armies have I painted? A lot, right? I've never had a varnish issue, ever, until I did these. And I sanded some of it down. But you can see here on where it kind of like crinkled. And that's what it was. After it was all done, I sprayed it. I don't remember going that heavy on it. And it still crinkled on me. That was there. Here's another one. Here's the up here in this section here. Now it's not bad, because it's a cast vehicle, which is supposed to have that kind of a crummy experience. Here's some more crackling here. Let's see if I get the angle just right. There we go. There's some crackling happened right in here. And now that I think about it, one of my pens are 4s. I want to say the pens were 4F1. Had that issue with it. On the front glacis plate. Yep. So I learned from it, and fuckery. And I make sure that it doesn't happen again. That's the thing about being plastic, is it doesn't damage itself. Let's see if I can get this glacis plate in the right place. See that? There you go. That one you can really tell. See this crinklage that's going on here? That's what that is. That is the varnish. So, and you know, is it a combination of the varnish is crappy, that I put it on too thick there and it activated something else? No, it's not humidity. That was actually on a non-humid day. I've never had it happen before. I think it's crappy varnish, and I went over it too much there. So I just really lightly dust it, and man, this has a lot less weathering on it than some of the other ones. Well, they're all going to vary a little bit, but you know, this is the Hasegawa kit. But anyhow, that's the last one it happened on. I'm like, okay, we know what not to do, and I haven't had one happen since. So since that one, I've done probably 20 vehicles. So I make it a point to not go very heavy. It doesn't, we're not going to grab these things very hard anyways. So I've forgotten about the Shermans. Yeah, I started doing the Shermans because, Shermans need some loving too. Everybody forgets about them, but anyhow. Let's put these guys back in the... I've never had it happen with my figures. Never. But then, do I spray my figures? I spray them gloss. I don't know. And now I've just gone to the brush on stuff, and nothing happens with that. You just gotta make sure you don't go over it after while it's still wet. It's not a big deal. Looks like Hammerite finish. Yeah, I've actually sprayed, Steve, outside with it raining with the garage open. It wasn't that. I was apprehensive of spraying if it's too cold because the can is too cold. But I still have never had a white, where you spray and it comes out white. I've never had that happen to me. That's the only thing that happened, and it's the first time it's ever happened to me in 35 years of painting. And that happened last year for the first time. I think I just went too thick with it. And I used to use like Model Master, which was good quality spray. You can't get that anymore. Now I got to use some off-brand. I don't think it's even Krylon. It's something even worse than that. That's a small price to pay to learn a lesson. I'm like, okay, well, we won't have that again. You got to have mistakes happen to you to be able to learn from them. If everything goes right all the time, you don't know how to deal with a problem. You don't know how to deal with adversity if everything's going your way all the time. God, I love this Flamme cleanser. I'm just really impressed how it turned out. And it's subtle in that the front of this is more, not as much as I saw a picture. I saw somebody that really went overboard with it. There's more black and stuff in here than there is in the back. And it would be. This thing is just, it's a freaking dragon, spitting out fire. And unfortunately, the hatch is cracked because I want to say it was a hatch that I had left open way back when, or broke on me, and I walked away from it. There's things in my youth that I put together and I would encounter a problem. And you know what I would do with it? I don't know how to deal with this. And I moved on to something else. And now I'm like, no, let's confront this. We came here to get this thing done. I have an Eschi half track that one of the sprocket wheel on it broke off. And I didn't have epoxy. So one of the first things I did last year when I was putting all these vehicles together is I went and fixed it. And I went and put a rod through it. I drilled, because I didn't have drills or any of these tinkering things that I have now. I went and put a rod through it, epoxied it, no problem. When I put the track on the other side, the other one snapped off. So I put a rod through it as well. It ain't gonna break now. So, those kind of things they're empowering to have these problems and be able to deal with them. So it's still easier than any day at work. But that's what you do that's what most people do all the time, I would imagine, at work, is solve problems. Management type people. So it's empowering to do stuff like that. And this method's worked pretty well. I wish I didn't have to resort to this. I wish I could just goop it and, go, but it works so far. I can't paint this underneath the tank. That's just super frustrating. So this is about the quickest way I can think of to get this happening. Now, where is the tool one? It's here. don't want that one, I want this one. That's why I like showing you guys every single thing I do, because you guys there may be something that's hanging you up. And instead of you quitting the hobby, well, that's probably pretty extreme, because I don't think any of you guys would quit the hobby, but there's people that get frustrated and go into something else when, yeah, you could tell this is fresh. See how ooey gooey it is, like dough? It's pretty fresh. We're gonna have to make it a little bit bigger, but we need that. We're gonna have to go a little wider. You know, maybe you'll see something on here that'll be like, oh, I'll try that, because that'll save me freaking hours of how I've been doing something. Or I'm not afraid of giving away the stuff that's worked for me. It's just a trick anyways. Wow, it's really coming off. These ones I made for the T34, these are going to be a pain in the ass. They're old. I've had them for like a month, so it's nice and hard, but it is what it is. You know, it's like reality shows. I hate reality shows because they're not real. They're staged. Everything is orchestrated, and you're not like, random things don't happen. Everything is, staged. And I don't want my hobby channel to be like that. I'm going to drop things on the ground. I'm going to lose a barrel that I can't find that it ends up being in my seat. It happens. No fakery. It's too much trouble to be fake or pretend to be something you're not. Okay. Let's check. Inside's good. Inside's plenty wide. I think I'm going to cut this a little bit more. I wish I knew what was making that sound. Annoying sound. And I don't hear that well. I think we'll take a little bit here. Use your techniques, try new ways of paying 15. There you go. And I don't ask anybody to copy me. You're free. I'm definitely a free will kind of stuff. I don't tell people what to do, and I don't like being told what to do. It's a great relationship, Okay. I think that's where we want it. This one's good too, right? I wish the stand wasn't so... I wish there was more meat around it, but I've just kind of committed to make them all the same width, the stand. I don't know why, I just wanted to do it that way. Man, they look awfully mustardy in the picture. They're not that mustardy. Okay, let's get Mr. Epoxy out. Everybody likes a different look at their figures. I certainly have things that I like, It's just subjective, like music. Music's all over the place. I actually dislike most music. I know it sounds, well, you don't like music. No, there's just a lot of it that just I don't care for. But that's fine, Learn how to put reins on chariots. Oh, those? Yeah, that was pretty easy. The amount of compliments I've had is amazing on the ancient. Many thanks. Just takes, it's almost like you got to see somebody do it successfully. And that's happened to me. I've seen people do things and I'm like, oh, that's how you do it. So you don't get frustrated by doing it the wrong way. You don't want to spend 4 hours doing something and then realize, shit, this won't work, Missed the chariots. Do I have it on a video? I don't know if I have it on the video, but it's easy. I'm telling you, the thing is just with patience is don't have an expectation. Don't be like, well, I got to get this Marder 2 done today. It may not happen, Just keep plugging along. Be the tortoise, not the hare. All right. Epoxies that are upside down. That has been a huge help. And we got to remember we need to glue this. Where's the plate that's going to go on the bottom of the Marder so that we don't see all the way through it. See how you can see all the way through it? You're going to see all the way through that. And that's going to be annoying. You'll see the groundwork because it's big enough that light gets in there. All right, where's that? There's a plastic plate that's out here somewhere that I cut it to size. It's hiding behind the other Marder. Okay. Those two, this, anything else need to get epoxied right this moment? No. Okay. Yeah, we can use the same one, it'd be fine. Same thing, a lot of people mix this epoxy with wooden sticks. Just use a needle, and you can clean it off every time and keep reusing the same needle. And it's precise. Actually, I'm doing the gooping on the bottom. We got to use quite a bit. So let's go all the way here, and then we'll go all the way back. And then this one, same thing. It's cold in here, thank goodness. But it means that this does not come out as easy as it should. It's not that cold in here, but man, when the house is in the 60s and it's free, oh, I'm happy. It was like 62 in the house or something like that the other day. Like, awesome. Free AC. Yep. Well, good. We're all on this journey together. Thank you. Thanks for coming by. It's the best thing you guys can do is just show up, interact with me. I don't need anybody's money or donations or PayPal stuff or what's the other thing called that people do? What's it called? Patreon. I don't need you guys' money. That's not what we're here for. We're here just hanging out, going on this journey together and entertaining, and it's better than watching a damn video. Yeah, we're gonna glue this thing. I think we'll leave this one last. This one's gonna be stubborn. These tanks aren't gonna be as stubborn. And again, I'm okay with if tanks weren't on bases, but stuff with like rubber tracks and stuff like that does a lot better if they're based. So at that point, you might as well have everything based, just for consistency. But I'm on the fence with basing vehicles, honestly. But I've kind of gone with basing them because it allows you to kind of showcase them a little bit in the terrain that they'd be in anyways. So it's kind of a win-win. I love epoxy, but when I was a kid, it didn't work worth a damn. They've definitely changed it. Or maybe I'm just more competent doing it. Well, I'm certain I'm more competent doing it than when I was a kid, but we all are. Kids are impatient and stuff like that. But Like when I was a kid, I hated weld cement because it takes a while to dry. To dry. Yeah, well, that's because you had an agenda that you wanted to build a model and play with it, in the next hour, and it didn't happen. Building models isn't the end result; it's the journey. So, let's see. Shit. Oh, it's this one. Okay, good. It's not being competent now. Okay. And we'll leave this little happy guy alone. And they're all magnetized, so I could put them on the side of a refrigerator if I wanted to. It's just, if I'm going to go through all the trouble, I might as well magnetize the stands. Okay, let's put this guy here until she dries. And this one's super heavy. I may not have enough epoxy. Hey, you get out of there. We don't need that little bit there. And you learn stuff from mistakes, and you want to make mistakes, but you don't want them to be so big that you get discouraged from doing anything else. But hey, maybe you'll see stuff on here how not to do things too. You can learn by mistakes that learn by other people's mistakes, so you don't have to make. I think that's enough for this guy. Let's push this all the way to the edge. Okay, 615's over there. Now we should have enough for this Marder. This thing is extremely delicate. Yeah, I ordered this probably with an order with Jeff Franz when he lived in town, probably in the mid-90s. That's how long I've had this thing. We used to order from Brookhurst, and the big joke was it would get here before we'd order them. You'd order them on Monday, and on Thursday you'd have the delivery. So I ordered plenty of stuff from Brookhurst because back in the day they were the importer of so many things that we were interested in at the time. And now they're a shadow of their former self. Although one of the things I got recently was actually from them through eBay. I don't think what it was. That the Panzer IIIs? Something. Okay, now it's black underneath. Okay, perfect. Excellent. And get this thing the hell out of the way like it's freaking asbestos or something. Get it out of here before I put my finger in it and then touch something else with it. It's quality having somebody at hobby alongside extra motivation. Absolutely. And I don't care what scale you do. I don't care what you do. Yeah, so at the end of the year, we're supposed to go to Europe. That'd be the first time I've been to Europe. I'm fine not going to Europe, but having this technology that we can communicate with people in Europe is more important to me. Because I can always go on Google Earth and go like, I wonder what the Eiffel Tower looks like from there, or whatever it is that you want to do. Used 3 pots of Humbrol paint, slapped them on your tank plane, and took it into the garden an hour later. I had a model of the Bismarck, a 1/600 scale. I had no paints, right? The only paints I had was this paint by number set that they had given me for my 11th birthday or some shit like that. So it's oil, right? Oil in those little containers that, you could end up getting everywhere with crappy brushes. So I painted the deck on the Bismarck, probably in a color similar to like this, because that's the closest thing I had in the paint by number set. And I built it and I'm like, man, this stuff's still tacky. It was like tacky for like a month. What do you think of that guy out in the UK Yorkshire gamer. He's doing naval stuff in 1/700 scale. That would be awesome. And he does a great job with the waves and all that kind of stuff on there. I don't know what kind of rules or whatever. I think he's making his own rules, but I grew up naval wargaming, so that's really, I get that. I mean, I know more about that than even this stuff because we used to game it so much, and that's what I like about historical gaming is you can't help but learn real things while you're playing. You know, you can't help but. That's why I don't get fantasy for me. I'm not learning anything. This has always been about learning, and yeah, we learned so much playing the Sea Creek 4. So much. But now I don't want to play that at a show because they don't finish the game. And I'm okay that the game takes a long time to play. It's not like I'm bored. But it's like, oh, it's 15 minutes, we'll have to call it. Like the game, it's not even, it just getting started. What, you know. So that's what I love about DBA is that every game is finished, you know. So this, I'm not going to run this at a show. This will be, I probably won't even bring it to Mitch's because it'll just take too long unless we know we're going to be there all day. I'll just sit up in the back room and leave it set up. You know, there's enough space for this, but okay, so these guys are drying. These guys are, you ready to do the second coat on the Marder too? I don't know if it even needs a second coat. Let me just start slapping on some Panzer Gray on this thing. Let's see how that goes. You know, and you modify your methods that you do along the way. Like if you noticed, I'm not putting screws on these things anymore. I'm okay grabbing them and most of the paint doesn't get touched, you know. So let's get, we got plenty of this stuff. Let's go grab, do we need to water it down? We don't, do we? No. All right, then I'm just gonna put this straight on a shim. I'm gonna put this straight on this shim. And let's get the pans, man, I gotta go pee again. All right. I'm not even gonna stop the camera. I'll be right back. I drink so many liquids. Oh well. Okay. I never did get this stuff off. This is definitely more resistant to come off your hands than normal paint. This polyurethane based primer. I think that's going to be enough on there. It's not everywhere, but look, the reality is wherever it is, and there are probably places that aren't going to get touched anyway. So let's just roll with this and see if I can get away with not using any spray primer that's stinky. Oh, it's going to be like this. This is the new one too. There we go. That's the spirit. All right, let's get a brush. This one should be fine. We would use Panzer Gray on it. Destroying these Chinese brushes. It's too big. It's too big. No, it's too big. This has got little nooks and crannies, and I've got to be kind of careful so I don't knock any of this stuff off, because this thing has a lot of, let's break one of these things in. This one has a lot of nooks and crannies that, shit, I should probably just paint this marder as well, because we're going to repaint this thing. Maybe we don't have to. Maybe we don't have to repaint this. Obviously, we need to relighten it up. Let's just leave this thing alone, and let's not work on two things at once. My preference is not to work on two things at once anyways. All right, let's just slap this paint on. And then we go Agrax Earthshade afterwards. The instructions for this MMS thing were just very, very poor. You prefer fairly simple rules that play quick. Fortunately, there are many rules available. It just takes time in order to find that is interesting and realistic. Well, you're in luck, because there's a lots of simple rules out there. It depends on the period. If it's something I'm really into, I can't take simple rules. What I can't stand are abstract rules. I don't like abstract math. You know, it just doesn't compute with me. I'm not whatever brained enough to enjoy it. And I'm honestly surprised I played DBA as long as I did, because it's very abstract. You know, where things... You know, I played ASL for many years, Advanced Squad Leader, and sometimes you couldn't find a rule for something, so you kind of winged it. It's probably this. And then later on in another session, you actually find what you were looking for, and you found out you were right, the call you made. DBA is the opposite. I constantly make the wrong calls. It's not what the author perceives. So it's definitely too abstract and too removed for what I'm normally used to. Like these rules, Face of Battle, are they're not very complicated. It's all percentile, right? So you know you're going to roll a percentile dice, right? And you know low is good and high is bad. And, you know, you just have to decide, you know, what it is that you're going to, you know, you roll a hit. It's a task check based on your ability with modifiers on a chart. It's not difficult, you know? And if you roll badly, it could be a jam. If you roll good, it could be a critical hit. And you know, when you roll a hit, then you got to roll for hit location. That's kind of obvious. And then when you get the hit location, you know that your shell penetrates a certain amount. There's certain penetration armor, and then you got to see what the effects are. So it's all logic. None of it is weird. None of this, well, they get quick killed unless it's in your bound kind of thing. You know, that stuff is just too multifaceted that doesn't make sense. But, so... I think they're more simple. However, they're more detailed and more multifaceted, so that, you know, you're not going to get as much stuff done. It's just a matter of, you know, it's just kind of the opposite end. Now, unlike DBA, where you're like, I rolled a 3 and they rolled a 4, and you're trying to figure out, well, what really kind of happened, you know, when you zoomed in, because a lot of stuff is abstracted out. This one, you don't have to figure it out. You know what happened. You know where the grenade landed. And, you know, it's just a different outlook. This is what I've always gamed before DBA, is stuff like this. You know, play Secret. How many shells hit? At what range are they? Did they penetrate? All right, where did they hit? Oh, they hit in the turret. All right. Did it penetrate the turret? It did, okay. It does this amount of damage or what have you. These are the effects. That's what I'm used to. So, and I'm just got tired of explaining these abstract concepts to people that were new to the game, and you know, there's things that as you go on your hobby journey that you don't want to do anymore. You've done them enough, you don't want to do them anymore. And one of those things for me is I don't want to teach abstract rules to people that'll probably never play the game again. I'm just I'm just tired of it, you know. And I've done it enough. It's time for somebody else to do it. Or, you make up your own rules where just read the rule book and it makes sense to most people. Not teach people how to play a game and argue about how people interpret the game differently. I'm just not in, and I really haven't had many argument issues with the game per se, but it's really unsatisfying to play something wrong, at least for me. Maybe other people do it on purpose to try to get an edge or something, but I don't want to play something wrong. That's a loss as far as I'm concerned. But these rules are out of print. So if we come across something that we don't agree with, we'll just change it, and that's how we'll play them. And I plan on everybody being on one side anyways. I don't plan on splitting people into two groups, at least initially, until people come to grips with, what this is like. And maybe nobody will want to play this game. That's fine. I'll solo it because I like it. And again, you don't have to have an agenda. It's not like, okay, we got to get this done in 4 hours. It'll get done when it gets done. So, and again, the gaming for this is just it's a way to play with the things that I'm going to create. But the main motivator is to do this, is to actually build and paint the stuff and learn about the units and that kind of stuff. The playing is just, I can get my World War II playing itch fixed by playing a video game. No, it's not the same, but it's enough. I would rather play a detailed video game of World War II than an abstract one with miniatures. For World War II. I'm fine playing stuff like DBN and stuff like that, Okay. This is going to be a test, too, to see if I can get away with this. I may not be able to get away with this. The paint scuffing on the wheels and stuff like that. We'll see. I really wanted to work on this. I didn't want to wait until, now to spray it. I couldn't believe this. The gun barrel wasn't drilled out. The end wasn't drilled out. Because I consider these things to be pretty precise. I would have expected that out of it, but it wasn't a big deal. It was just like, oh, it's not drilled out. Okay. Again, if you're going to drill out a gun barrel, you want to mark it with the end of an X-Acto blade. So you get the center, put a little divot in there, somewhere that a bit will end up working, and then just put a pilot hole and then enlarge that pilot hole. Not try to do it with the big one at a go, You're starting your day. Okay, Steve, thanks for stopping by. I bet the weather's great where you're at. It's supposed to be good here today, and you're even colder, so. I mean, if you're into cold weather, and I am, as long as I don't have to shovel it. Let's look at the side here. Okay, we'll let this dry now. Looks better painted than not painted. Now, color-wise, they're close enough. I'm going to try just dry brushing this thing up. Those German crosses, can we get those things off? Because we don't need to use those same ones. Let's rinse this thing off. How are these, how are the panzers glued down? Oh, this one's not glued down top to bottom. All right, we can mess with that later. It's not a huge priority. I tried putting the nuts back in there, but it wouldn't go in. It's a little difficult because those were actually, had to tear them apart. Okay, where do we go next while that's drying? Let's take a look at some T34s. I think those are pretty handy. I've got those 4 bases of them. What's in here? That's those Primo 187 scale things. Let's hope the T34s are at the top. I think they are. Good Lord, this is heavy. Heavy metal. You know, I prefer not to work on a bunch of different things like this, but you have to. It takes drying time between them. And we've got these 4 bases of T34s. Let's see where we are. We're going to do 76 millimeter ones. Let's see what's good. Lord. I was able to put all these together. These are the Skytrex ones. What's in here? Okay, that's a Model 40. That's an empty bag. Well, that shouldn't even be in there. We'll get good use for this. This is a 2 Model 41s. And this is a Model 40. And this is these must be the ones that are like half made. I wanted to use the ones that were in packages. They were in open packages before I used the ones that weren't. These are all sealed. It's kind of open. Okay, which means the other one must have the T3485s in it. Yes. And these things. Do they fit on here? No, they need to be on a bigger one, which means they won't fit. Nice. See what I just did? I put my finger on the gray. So get the gray, get live paint away from your area. It's not a big deal that I got it on me, I just don't want to transfer onto something else. No editing here, folks. It does a fair job of getting this off. There you go. Live paint be gone. I got 8 T3485s to do and 2 SU100s. These are all 176 scale. Okay. Let's take a look at the open bags. So I wanted to do that. I should have 4 in here. Maybe even more than 4. And these are a mixture of Skytrex and SHQ. Okay, this is a Skytrex one. And I don't have any with crew members popped out, so that's definitely need some candidates for that. This is okay. This is a Skytrex one. This is an SHQ. Okay, that's one of each. And what else do we have here? Oh, we have one each of those. Okay, perfect. Then let's see what we got here. Now, the tracks on these are actually a pain in the butt to put together. Now, I said that I was going to make all these Chelyabinks that I could because I don't have, I have more standard ones than Chelyabinsk. So there's no point in, you could build either one out of these SHQs, but the Skytrex are all this style. So there's no point in using these and not using that turret. So that builds us one. This is going to, oh, and these have to have the fuel cans. I see the fuel cans are on the other ones. Well, some may have, this one, for instance, isn't going to have these in the back because I have another one that does have it. What's in here? One of each? This is the Skytrex one. Okay, so the Skytrex ones are definitely... No, it isn't. They're both SHQs. They're both SHQs. Okay, so these would both be Chelyabinsk. So this would be 3 Chelyabinsk, and am I out of those? Is that all I have? That may be. That's a Model 40. Yes, that's all the Chelyabinsk I have. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave one of them. Well, let's see how many standard ones I have. I got one here. I got another one here. Another one here. Got another one here. These are both earlies. That's an early. Early. That's the mid one. Here's another one. Here's another one. That's an early one. Here's another one. Okay. That's all the Model 42s, or as I like to call them, yeah, they'd be 42s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 more to do. I have 7 more to do. 6 here. This is the 7th one. And 3 Chelyabinsk ones to do. Yeah. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to do, since I have that many more of them, I'm not going to do any Chelyabinsk's. We're going to do all 4 of them. Of the Skytrex ones. I'm just going to put them all together. This whole bag will be those. And that will be 4 Chelyabinsk and 3 of the Skytrex ones. Okay. And one of these is going to have a commander in it. These are ones I got from a estate sale. Guy's brothers were at the last convention selling off his models he never got to, and he had tons of T-34s, tons. Yeah, this figure, oh, he'll paint up just fine. Turrets over here. Holes. Now the nice thing about these tracks, I don't know if they did this on purpose, but this was a smart move. They are the same in both directions. So the idler wheel goes on, the drive sprockets on the back on the Soviet vehicles. There's the motorcycles again. So you can put them either way. You don't have to like, oh man, they packaged 2 of the wrong one together. So that keeps quality control issues down. We got wooden logs, which the other T-34s I have, they don't have wooden logs on them. And they got fuel boxes, so I put the fuel boxes from the SHQ in all of them. So put all the logs over here. All right. Oh, damn. I just remembered something I hate about these. You'll see this. See how it has this piece of flash underneath the machine gun barrel? That's a pain in the ass. So I don't even try to save this machine gun barrel. I drill it out and put another one in there, but I have to take all of this off. And that's a pain in the ass. Because I don't want to just paint this like a dark color like it's not really there. Just nothing to see here. I actually take it off. I've forgotten about that. That's no fun. That's no fun. All right, fuel tanks. Four tank commanders. I'm pretty sure, since the commander doubles as the gunner, I'm pretty certain that he would be in this hatch, not the other one. want the commander to be out. I'll have to look into that. Well, that should be pretty easy to find, right? T-34 crew positions. Yeah, that's got the periscope. The commander should be on the left-hand side. T-34 crew positions. Should be images. I've got books for it, but I don't want to hunt through the books and have to put them away. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's a T-34-85, figures. Yeah, commander's on the left. Commander's on the left. Okay. I don't know why they give me both hatches. I'm certainly not going to make them both open. So this one will be open, and there'll be a commander behind it. Which these figures are kind of, I don't know if they're that heavy on the flash. They're okay. They're decent looking. I'm sure they'll paint up fine. Hell, they probably fit in there without me even doing anything. All right, where's my tweezers at? There we go. This hatch. Wow. It's gotta be, it goes on the inside. Is that gonna leave him space to? Yeah, it's gonna end up being like this. And then the other one will be closed. Okay, so one's like that. And another hatch for you. And then these other guys. Jeez, do I have a... Well, I got other T-34s, so... Maybe I'll put a commander in another one, too. Just for variety. I don't mind painting the figures. I don't mind painting the figures at all. It gives some people an idea of how big these things are, or how big they aren't. Yeah, let's just put 2 commanders in. In these. Okay, and 2 hatches with them. Are we missing a hatch? No, there's one over here. Okay. And 2 hatches with him, right? And then 2 hatches with this turret. And 2 hatches with this turret. Okay, cool. I don't mind painting the figures. Even if they are a bit rustic. Okay. So these 2 guys, I have a small Ziploc bag here. Things that aren't used right now. 2 commanders in there. Okay. Man, this is a lot of grinding. All right. Let's begin. Let's get some tools. That's a good one, if I remember correctly. If I remember incorrectly, it's not then. It's funny how that works. Nine viewers. Good morning, folks. Welcome to Tankograd. All right, that's all the... And they're actually not that useful. The files are actually not that useful. These are the type of T-34 tank which would be the most common at Kursk. The hexagonal turreted ones. And after these, we still have, what, 4 more? 3 more? Let's see if we can't. This one's probably the finest one. Tempted to cast them myself. Often thought of doing a... Yeah, the problem with doing those, like, damaged buildings is they're more work than doing a real building. Did you know that all the T-34s that I got of the Model 41 that I have are actually the Stalingrad model with the flat back? The STZ ones? I had no idea they were all that model. And obviously in this game, for instance, you would have a counter that shows whether or not your crew exposed. It doesn't really matter that the figure shows a tank unexposed. This is just for, for picture purposes. For creativeness. So I actually like painting the tank crew on. But I don't want everybody with a turret exposed. These are not the best castings in the world. But if you're going to have rough-looking vehicles, they might as well be Soviet vehicles. Yeah, that sound. I did not bother drilling the barrels on these because they're pretty weak. I don't want to cause more problems. Okay, I think we need to just assembly line this stuff. So this one is good enough to move forward with. Next. So I was reading the account on Kursk, and it was saying that the tanks, for instance, that were facing Grossdeutschland. Oh, is this one missing a handle? That kind of is. I actually don't mind that. I actually don't mind that. Make them different a little bit. I'm actually going to go ahead and cut one of the fenders too, like it fell off. I think I'm doing that, but man, it's got to make them look a little different from each other. Give them caricature, as I like to say. Did you see that video that those guys in Australia did of that Stalingrad table? Really pretty amazing. Like a diorama you play on. Even had sewer stuff to it. You crawl in one place and crawl up somewhere else. Battle of the Rats. You know, these molds are probably really, really old. There we go. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Anybody know how old these castings are? When Skytrex these models might be from? I think the 80s, but it may be earlier than that. They still paint up well, though. Yeah, I actually don't mind it that's chipped up like this. Okay, we're going to call that one done. Let me take a look back at this one. Yeah, that one's fine. We're going to have to sweep this up well. This is the real lead. This is the bad shit. So, we don't want putting this in your mouth. I think I got to put a lot in my mouth for it to be an issue, so. Keep the lead on the tank, not on in your mouth. Because you can tell. We've got lots of other Germans for Kursk also. Oh. All right, I got the 5-minute warning. Gotta do stuff with other folks here, but you know, pretty productive, but gotta start working on different things because sometimes you can't move the football in one direction. You gotta go laterally. Okay, and that's the last sports analogy I'll make because I don't even watch sports, but gotta keep moving, gotta keep the momentum going. But we won't work on more different stuff than this. So we got the basing to do on the Panzer IIIs. We'll clean these guys up for. There's tons of paint schemes to do on this on Soviet stuff. Tons of stuff out there, and honestly, the appeal of it is I get to hand paint them, and I'm enjoying hand painting this stuff. So we have time to clean up the other turret. I bet we do. I bet we do. And we'll vacuum all this shit up. Then I got to do some research on these fuel cans because not a single one will be the same as the other. This is actually easy compared to that whole thing. That is a pain in the ass. I'd forgotten about that. And the part is you got to get it down, but not cut into the hull. And then you've got to scrape it. It's just a pain. And it takes time, actually. So, I don't know if I have time to do more hobbying today. I probably will, but if I can't do this for at least an hour, I don't even bother trying to connect. That's a pain getting everybody here. And then, oh yeah, by the way, now that you're here, see ya. You know, that's a pain in the butt. I'll see if I can't find that Battlefield 3D guy painting the Battlefield 3D stuff on there, but I don't need to get any 3D printed stuff anytime soon. As you can see, I got plenty to work on. You saw how many T-34s. My goal is to get them all done at some point. I don't have to do them in a row, you know, but just to get them done. And this one's missing the handle here. I'm not going to replace it. Because the other ones I have it on there, so. This one has it. These three don't. So. But anyhow, that's it for this morning. How long have we been on here? Oh shit, almost 4 hours. So anyways, thanks for stopping by, folks.